All right, welcome into the trenches. I'm Sam Mays. The Oklahoma Sooners win 31-24 over the BYU Cougars in a game that I don't think anybody saw coming by any means. It was 4 quarters of hard-nosed physical football. I think the thing that we got to start with, Dylan Gabriel goes out. What we're hearing is it's concussion. I never want to hear that about anybody on the field. The head injury conversation is very, very real in college football and football in general. So I hate to hear that anybody goes out with a ding. His helmet hit the turf, from what I saw on X. If the play that I saw on X was really the play that did it, so it wasn't a dual impact shot where you get rocked from the front and then hit in the back, which obviously is significantly worse. So obviously we hope that Dylan Gabriel gets healthy. Jackson Arnold comes in, blows the red shirt year, which just sucks. You hate to see it. That kid is obviously highly touted. It's more and more likely in 2023 that you won't keep quarterbacks for a full 5 years, but you like the fact that Oklahoma attempted it, right? As he is the future of the program, no question. Big, physical, talented kid, and I think you saw some of that tonight in this game. Kind of racking my brain on where to get started. I think that the thing that really, let's start offensively. First half of the game, I thought OU's offense came out and played well. The conditions weren't great. The field wasn't great. I thought the offensive line did a decent job protecting. Dylan Gabriel was 13 of 21, 191 for 2 touchdowns, average almost 10 yards an attempt, which isn't bad. He could have been a little more accurate at times, but like I said, conditions weren't necessarily favorable. Sawchuk has 14 carries for 107 yards, which is good. Tyree adds another 25 to that. I think a team total of 144. I don't know what it is about Jeff Levy and having a hard time consistently keeping the quarterback run game involved, right? Like, it just seems like it should be a big focus for every single game they have from here on out. Gabriel in the game, I think he very much reminds me of a Russell Wilson type quarterback, where if he gets 75 yards in a game, 65 yards in a game, that's the best kind of football he's going to play. I think he's a better quarterback when he's involved in the run game early and often. And I think it's odd that you just don't see that attempted. And obviously maybe it's because he's trying to keep him healthy, and you don't want to waste maybe the exact situation that happened today is what they were trying to avoid. But I feel like the Oklahoma offense is always at its best when that run game is implemented and it plays a major role coming into the game. Like, there is a defined plan to get Gabriel going in the run. I thought as soon as Arnold got in the game, that's the thing that I threw out there on Twitter immediately was they need to get that kid involved in the run game. He's going to gain more confidence as he makes successful plays, whether it's on the ground or in the air. Success breeds confidence. And as big as that kid is, as physical as that kid is, give me Jackson Arnold running the football down the field any day over Dylan Gabriel. That kid is a monster, and he's got tremendous speed and is not scared to lower shoulder, although there were some moments in this game where you're like, okay, freshman, I love your effort, but get your butt down on the ground, because we can't lose you in this ball game. But yeah, that kid is special. So I'm more pro QB run game from Jeff Levy, but it just seems like something that he often just forgets as an option and preparation, which is crazy to me. As you watch film, all you should see is success the more that they do that, and they just didn't do it enough, in my opinion, in this game. As far as throwing the ball down the football field, you saw them take a lot of shots. I like taking shots early and often against teams like this. The thing that you want to do is take the fan base out of the game, take them out of the game mentally. This is not a team that should have been in the football game based off of what we've seen. See them find a way to stick with it, just let you know immediately that it was going to be a problem, because the fan base is just nuts. And this is what we're going to see in basketball here in the Big 12 also. That basketball stadium, it's like 30,000 people. It's insane. Like, BYU fans are wild. And with an attempt or with an opportunity now to play major, big top 5 conference football, I feel like BYU, one of the few teams in the league that I would put in that category of most likely will grow fast, most likely will recruit better right off the bat now that they have an opportunity to play consistently and with in semifinal games, especially the playoff goes to 12. So this is a good football team, a good football atmosphere, right? Not great this year by any means, but a good football atmosphere, and you saw it. And anybody that's surprised that they sold that place out, I feel like it's crazy to me how sometimes OU fans forget how big that brand is, right? How big it is to play against the Oklahoma Sooners, no matter who you are. The Oklahoma Sooners are coming to town. Of course, the place is going to be nuts. Like it just seems like this team is caught off guard often by teams having their best games. Now, I will say, as far as the defense is concerned, you're bringing a backup quarterback that's in its third start. I don't think anybody was overly prepared for his mobility and how that run past the RPO was going to really affect the Oklahoma defense. And I'm kind of sitting there watching the game, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, when's the last time OU played against a true running threat? And I'm thinking this season, I guess maybe Cincinnati would be the guy that we would say is because they didn't see UCF starting quarterback who is very mobile. So this might be, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I just had a hard time thinking of someone that offered that type of mobility, and they struggle with it. Often coaches are going to get blamed for bad performances, and if you look at social media right now, Venables is just getting killed for the defense's performance. And I'm just going to tell you, football is football, and every once in a while you have to look at the players and think, a coach can't stop you from going out there and getting your ass beat. Coach can't stop that. Go back and watch the West Virginia game and look where the Oklahoma defensive line played the majority of the game. Off the snap, they were hands in the chest of the West Virginia offensive line, driving their feet. They were a yard deep every single time the ball was snapped. And it's crazy to me that in this game, it was the complete opposite. BYU's offensive line was dominant. BYU's offensive line was pushing them off the line of scrimmage. BYU's offensive line was playing 2.5, 3 yards deep in the defensive backfield. They're getting up to linebackers and making plays. Everybody's asking me, where's the linebackers? Where's the linebackers? Well, when you've got a guard or a center in your face, right in your face, right off the snap, it's way more difficult to be effective. So you want to see your defensive line keep that group on the line of scrimmage. You want to see your defensive line keep those guys busy up front like they did last week. And this week, they just failed to do it against a BYU offensive line that just hasn't been record-breaking this year. So just a very odd look. And then someone mentioned, well, they're just not good on the road. Let me tell you something. That is a thing. It is, right? It is. Every once in a while, you'll come across a team that just struggles to play football on the road. And it is kind of what it is. One of those things internally that you just got to find a way to overcome. When I was at Oklahoma State, we had this thing about wearing all orange where we lost every time we put it on. And we were a damn good little football team. And every time we put the orange pants on with the orange shirt, we would lose a game. To the point it got in our heads, and we just stopped doing it. And so when you start thinking about, think we're going on the road, we got to be better on the road, and the conversation starts being had. You saw this with Oklahoma a few years ago with the turnover conversation, right? We're not getting turnovers. And it was something, the term turnover was mentioned 5 times a press conference. We got to get more turnovers. We got to get more turnovers. And then guys are out there dropping easy interceptions, right? They're out there just not getting it done because it was such a pressure point for them that it was just overwhelming at times. This team has struggled a little bit on the road. And I don't know if it's something they talk about internally or not, but this is just one of those performances. Like as a player, right? As a player watching this film, I played in some games where I left them thinking, man, the scheme really sucked, and our coaches maybe let us down a little bit. And that happens. That 100% happens. I'm not looking at this game like that as a player. I'm going in watching the film thinking, man, I didn't play well, or that guy beat me up today, or I got bullied a little bit. I think it just came down to BYU was the more physical team for the majority of this game. Luckily Oklahoma's got some, this is when recruiting matters the most, right? Games like this, at the end of the day, Oklahoma's team just outshined BYU. They got better players, better athletes. Arnold gets in, makes some plays with his legs, throws some strikes, moves the chains in some appropriate times, and they overcame a BYU team that really put a lot of pressure on them to win this game. So it's, to me, it's a big time win as far as the morale of the team. It's a win that you want to see. This is how not every team that wins every game, they're perfect, right? Like college football is a struggle. It is a struggle every single week. You got to find a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. Oklahoma found a way to win in this game. They go back to the drawing board. Got to get better. Got to continue to improve. We're at the point in the season now where obviously you want to close out well. For Venables to win 10 games this year would be quite the accomplishment considering where they were a year ago. But all eyes are on what's going to happen next. The SEC is calling, right? The SEC is knocking on the door, and Oklahoma needs to find a way to be their best selves as they head into that conference, not only with the kids that are on this team currently, but those recruiting class conversations continue to happen. A&M Looks like there's going to be a mass exodus there where they should be able to take advantage of some transfer portal guys. So a lot of the conversation moving forward for the rest of this season will be, how is Oklahoma getting SEC ready with each and every game? This is going to look like a missed opportunity for a lot of people, and it might be right. It might be a missed opportunity to string together a couple of great games, back-to-back great games where you beat the hell out of West Virginia, and then you show up to BYU on the road and you have a great performance. That would have been awesome to see today, but it was a missed opportunity. So yeah, wild. Halftime hits, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Here we go again. Provo, Utah fans are nuts. It reminded me so much of what happened in Stillwater, right? With that crowd, how it was impacting the offensive line. It was impacting the snap count. Guys were making mistakes. I mean, that was a hornet's nest. This is another, stadium where OU shows up and people are ready for them, absolutely ready for them. And what is one of the most incredible environments in all of college football. What a great stadium that is. And BYU fans showed up in a big way. Trying to think anything else that just jumps off my page at me. We'll take some questions here. How do coaches address the issues with playing on the road? You have to have a conversation about it for sure, but it takes just a great performance, right? Or two, a couple of great performances on the road to change that narrative. Like, it really comes down to the players more than anything. They have to have that conversation with each other and how to get better on the road, and how it doesn't matter. You're not sleeping in your own bed. I love playing on the road. Loved it. And I played in the Big 12. That was nasty. Going to A&M, nasty. Playing at Nebraska was crazy. 100,000 people in that place, just loud and intense. Memorial Stadium, going to Norman and playing ball there, vicious viper's nest. And all it did was just pump me up. And so I loved, being booed and being yelled at and cussed at. Like, it was just motivation, and so I've never really understood the road situation outside of, there was a time in College Station that fourth quarter game was close and they were so loud that we were unable to hear the play being called. That really kind of changes some things there. That's when it really matters. But, it comes down to the players and their attitude going into those games. Can't be scared. Can't be worried about it. Just go play your game. You prepared just like they prepared. And when you're Oklahoma, that interlocking O and U on the helmet means something. It means more than most programs. It just does. Right? You're talking about 5 programs in the country that have the kind of power that OU does rolling into town, though. That's what blue blood football is. So I think it's okay for Oklahoma to show up to games like that, be pissed off and arrogant about it, right? And lean on teams. You can do that. They have the ability to do that. Today, it looked like they were out there playing a little scared on the defensive end, scared to make mistakes. And it just, I don't get it. I don't understand how you go from last week to this week. So look, the great question here at the bottom, Downs Dad, did altitude affect the team stamina? If I played in Colorado when I was in Oklahoma State, and let me tell you something, 20 minutes into the warm-up, I was like, nah, I don't want to be here anymore. Don't like it. Where's the oxygen tank? It is terrible. It absolutely impacted me through the course of 4 quarters, and I can't even imagine being a defensive player whose sole mission is to react. I couldn't imagine. Like, I know what physically I'm doing this play. I know how many steps it's going to take me to disarm that defensive lineman. I know exactly how long this play is going to last. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to manage your power meter as an offensive player than it is a defensive player. So I can only imagine that it impacted them defensively, no doubt. Can you explain poor tackling by the Sooners? I can't. I really can't. I think that tackling hasn't necessarily been an issue all season long with this group, but they did look a little rough on the tackling department. And look, shout out to BYU. Every once in a while, like I said this on Twitter and I got ripped for it a little bit, but it's like death and taxes. It's like a guarantee that every time that OU steps on the field with somebody, they're going to play their best game. BYU, how they prepared for this game. I'm telling you, as somebody that played against the University of Oklahoma, that week of practice was different than every other week we played, period. We went harder, wanted it more intense in the locker room before the game, more intense the night before in the meeting rooms. The coaches' speeches were legendary before this game. I promise you, BYU practiced their asses off this week. I promise you, those kids showed up with more purpose this week of preparation, more purpose last night before the game when they went to sleep. than they have all season long. It's the University of Oklahoma. So, like, you have to knock teams down if you're OU, period. That's what you have to do. You have to knock them down, make them, oh, yeah, you're excited to play OU. Let me remind you on why we're Oklahoma University. And it's been a minute since OU physically could do that, right? And I think they're getting closer this year than they have been in a long time to physically being that team, but they're still just not quite there yet where they can just play bully ball. Big thank you. Oh, thank you, Sean Stud 21. I appreciate that. Billy Bowman, how about that pick six, y'all? They needed that real bad, real bad. You imagine how much this game's direction changes if BYU goes down there and scores a touchdown there. Not only do they not score, but he returns it 100 yards for a touchdown. That is by far the most important moment of this season is the Billy Bowman pick six against BYU and Provo. Wild, unbelievable play. Thoughts on Jackson Arnold? I think that kid is special. I like that he's out there in that game with this goofy freshman smile on. I'm like, what are you smiling about? It's like he can't help himself. He just loves it. He loves the game. He's super physical, extremely talented as far as his arm strength and ability is concerned. That kid is special. And I think with the right coaching, he's going to be potentially that next great Oklahoma quarterback, which is saying a lot considering just in my time covering the Sooners, I've covered, two Heisman winners, and a runner up. Like, it's nuts how good the quarterback has been there in Norman. And I think that kid has got the next great one written all over him. Even Dylan Gabriel, look at what he's done in an OU uniform. It's like destiny. All right, you become that guy in Norman, and all of a sudden your path just changes, your trajectory just changes. And I think that Jackson Arnold's got the ability to do that one of these days for sure. I think it's sooner than later for that kid. He's very, very special. Ethan Downs got robbed. So let me actually, before we even get into the Downs, the fact that he got robbed, I love Brent Venables as an in-game coach. That dude is in the seat, driving it in the moment. There are coaches in college football that struggle with this, that struggle with getting in the seat or getting in the car with their team and experiencing the game from the inside out, right? Like there are coaches that walk this. I think Mike Gundy is one of these guys that struggles with this. Like Gundy, an excellent preparation guy. I think he's excellent at halftime, but like being in the moment emotionally, right? And feeling what your team is feeling in the moment and taking risks when you need to take risks. Not every coach is great at that. I think Venables is very good at being in the moment on the field. And when opportunities arise, like that fake punt, he takes them. He's going to take a shot, which I'm telling you right now, makes him a difficult coach to prepare for because you just never know what you're going to get from him. So I love the play call. Downs catches the pass. I saw Ethan play a game in Weatherford in high school, and I'm pretty sure the kid, not only did he run, I think he might have ran for 100 yards. He probably had 100 yards in receiving, sacked the quarterback 5. Like this Ethan Downs in high school was like watching a grown man play a peewee game. So as far as his ability to make a play, like the ball goes up in the air, I saw where it was going. I'm like, oh, he's got this. Like that kid is a freak of an athlete, freak football player, all the talent in the world. And he did get robbed from a big play. I was pretty upset for old Ethan. I'm sure Nate and his lovely wife were were frustrated up in the stands there in Provo, but very cool opportunity for sure. Jackson Arnold did a good job to be put in that position. I agree 100%. Like you're tied up. This is Oklahoma. You're on the road. Stadium's loud as all get out. Here comes, 18-year-old freshman needs to save the day. Yeah, I think he did as good as you could possibly ask for. Game ball goes to Jackson Arnold for getting in there and finding the way to win that game. 100%. Great point at the bottom here. The road games are about to get a lot harder. 100%. We kind of hit the SEC a little bit earlier in this pod, but it is a different breed, different ball game, no question. They have to get over that stuff ASAP, like immediately. That cannot be a part of your story going into the Southeastern Conference, where every game, every time you hit the road, no matter where you're at, it is going to be a buzzsaw. Fans are educated, they are loud and intense. The atmospheres are crazy. You can't be distracted. You got to find a way to get over that quickly if you're Oklahoma. Zero turnovers for the Sooners. That was big time. Yeah, that was big time. TCU defense is going to call Jeff Lebby's bluff with the Jackson Arnold as a starter. Say more, 405 boy. I'm curious what you mean by that. Is that the first sack fumble all year? I feel like they had I can't be the first one. I feel like they've had a one or two more. Maybe not recovered. It might be the first one they recovered. That's a good point. What can the team do to prevent offsides penalties and other pointless penalties? Those have been terrible the last 3 games. Yeah, some of those guys are young that are doing that. Jacob Sexton is young, and every road game he goes on, every moment that he has is a new experience, and he's gonna make some of those. The older you get, the more football you play, the less likely you are to make those mistakes. And so I think that eventually it will come. And if you are one of those guys that it's a chronic problem, then they need to replace it, right? That's the reality of the situation. You get to be a junior or senior, and you're still false starting and doing all those nonsense BS unforced errors. You can't play, right? That's just the reality of the situation. Offensive linemen we're an asset to the team. We're not out there getting stupid penalties. What's amazing, see, KW of Building, Solar, and Construction. What's more amazing? How many average QBs we make look like Heisman candidates, or our inability to pull away from mediocre competition? So, I mean, let's look at it. Did you see? Do I think that kid from BYU is a great quarterback? No, but let me tell you something. The boy man out there made some great plays. Like several of those third down plays that he made, he was throwing them in saltine size windows. Like he went out there and played his ass off today. This by far the best performance that he's had. I didn't get out there and look around and see a bunch of guys just running free in the Oklahoma secondary. I saw a quarterback throwing a bunch of very accurate passes. Even that one touchdown he threw, the receiver was completely covered up and he threw it in the window that only his guy could get it, and he caught the ball. Like the percentage chance of him completing that pass was low. I would say in the 10s, 15s maybe, and he found a way to get it done. BYU made some plays today, and it's okay to say that. It really is. It is okay to say that. The most disappointing part of the Oklahoma defense to me today was the lack of pressure they were able to get one-on-one. They've got to get better there. You've got to be able to win individual matchups up front. It can't be about Brent Venables dialing up pressure every single time they take the field, and that's how you're going to get home. That sack fumble that they have, that's a blitz. That's an arranged blitz that's been sneaks out to the edge. He comes off the tackle's rear end, and it was a great hit and obviously a great turnover moment for Oklahoma. But you got to see those defensive ends, those defensive tackles. They have to be more disruptive one-on-one. That's what it comes down to, being able to play in your base defense and trust that your players, these Oklahoma Sooners that are highly recruited, right? These 4-star, 5-star kids should be winning those one-on-one battles. And that's, you can blame the coach if you want to. You can talk about the coach if you want to. But to me, that's a gut check moment for me personally when I'm not doing those things. So it kind of is what it is. They got to get better individually. They got to be better with their pass rushes, decisions that they're making. Their pad level at times is too high. But I'm just telling you, in the game from last week, all those things looked to have improved. So what about this week? What made them regress up front along the defensive line? Who knows? Without DG, we don't win next week. I wouldn't say that at all. I think that Arnold is a definite. I mean, Arnold is one of your probably top 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks in the conference as a backup. I mean, that kid can play, and I think with preparation, a week knowing that he's going to start, he'll be a different animal against TCU. So I wouldn't. I think it comes down to the biggest question with that is how does Levy use him? And I'm just telling you, and I said it on X during the game. They have got to get that quarterback run game plugged in and leave the plug in. That's that's a part of who you are. And I think with Jackson Arnold being who he is, the body that he's got, being a freshman, to get him involved in the run game early and often next week would be where they need to be. And obviously we don't know how many details on DG's injury, but if Arnold is the guy, I would feel pretty confident with him going into next week's game, right? I'm not, that doesn't make it an automatic loss because their starting quarterback is out. I think that kid's capable of being a winning quarterback in this conference right now. Yeah, that's a great point. The defense did come through. They weren't perfect today, but they came through with some big turnovers. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you like my content, please hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Let's see. Why does OU continue to use that Shankopotamus kicker? Because they probably don't have another one. Sorry, brother. I think that's all you got. But yeah, I thank you guys so much for joining me with these. I've had so much fun all season long with these post games. I very much look forward to them every single week. That was a big win. Once again, Sooners win 31-24 over BYU on the road. Tremendous atmosphere. So cool to see all those OU fans get out there and travel. I think that's really something that's also pretty special, is the guarantee that OU fans will travel well going into the South. Like, blue blood football is blue blood football. Oklahoma is a very big representation of what that looks like. So you look at the stands today, and there was a ton of Sooner fans out there, and that's how it will be for the remainder going into next year. So cool atmosphere. Shout out to BYU for playing their tails off. I know there's some Cougs will watch this game. I have a lot of respect for the way that you guys competed today. You showed up, you executed well. Fan base was excellent, super loud. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Also, just a great college football atmosphere that Oklahoma found a way to get it done in. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Make sure you check out all my colleagues' content at selloutcrowd.com. Follow me on X if you get a chance to. It's at All American Maze. I appreciate the support. And once again, thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'll be live directly after the Oklahoma State game this afternoon. So thanks, guys.